We almost didn't buy the house. The price was suspiciously low. The seller insisted on a video call before agreeing to anything. And she kept studying our faces with an expression we couldn't quite name, somewhere between relief and guilt. We were doctors. My wife Susan and I had just relocated from Singapore to Honolulu, looking for a fresh start, when an elderly native Hawaiian woman offered us her late parents' sprawling mansion at a price that made no financial sense. We told ourselves it was just an eccentric seller and an old house nobody else wanted. We were half right. The first few days, we cleaned. The house was frozen in time, beautiful, quiet, and heavy with the kind of stillness that makes you speak in lower voices without knowing why. Then, on the morning of April 8th, Susan found it. A leather-bound diary, 1970s, sitting on the coffee table as though someone had just set it down. She opened it. One entry. That day's date. April 8th, 2026. Death to Aiden and Susan Lee at 11 p.m. Our names. Our full names. Written decades before we existed in this house. We called the seller immediately. What she told us changed everything. The woman's voice was calm. Too calm for what she was describing. Her parents, she explained, had been sorcerers. Practitioners of a Hawaiian spiritual tradition that had, in their hands, become something darker. When they died, they left behind a single, ironclad instruction. No outsider would ever repossess their home. They had bound that promise to something physical, an object they called the YY. The valuables, hidden somewhere inside the house. Destroying it was the only way to break the curse. She read us a riddle her parents had left. Open the story. It holds the key to time. Then she told us what to do once we found it. We begged her to come. She lived nearby. We needed her. I'm too old to be climbing around, she said simply. Maikai Ioi. She added, good luck to you, and drove away to a friend's house. We stood in the driveway watching her taillights disappear. It was 8 p.m., 3 hours. An enormous house. A riddle we couldn't solve. We started with the walls. Every inch. Tapping for hollow panels, pressing ornaments, sliding furniture. The house was vast and uncooperative, revealing nothing. By 9 p.m., Susan had given up twice. Both times she dropped onto the couch, exhausted and disbelieving, muttering that this was insane, that curses weren't real, that we were doctors, not ghost hunters. Both times I pulled her back up. Move it, Dr. Lee. We have a job to do. We have a job to do. Move it. She moved. At 10:15 p.m., I pressed against the back wall of a wardrobe in the master bedroom and felt something give. A panel. Loose. Beyond it, a room. We stepped inside and stood still for a moment, just breathing. It was filled, carefully, deliberately filled, with Hawaiian antiques. A life-sized hand-painted porcelain hula cane dancer stood in the corner, frozen mid-movement. A paha drum. A ukulele hanging beneath a wall sundial. A framed Dunlap broadside. An original copy of the United States Declaration of Independence beside an antique wooden bookcase. And stacked on the floor, neat as a library archive, box after box, each labeled memories. We had 45 minutes. The riddle said, the story holds the key to time. We were about to waste 20 minutes on the wrong answer. The sundial had a keyhole at its base. We needed a key. Open the story. Books. It had to be the bookcase. We pulled every volume, fanned every page. Some were extraordinarily rare, the kind of finds that would make a collector weep. We found no key. I stared at the framed declaration. The story of America? We dismantled the wooden frame with our bare hands and confirmed what we already suspected. The broadside was genuine, worth a fortune, utterly useless to us. Susan turned to the memory boxes. Story can mean many things, she said, already pulling one open. Memories are a kind of story. It was a reasonable argument. We dug through old clothing, photo albums, loose keys, then more keys in the next box, a whole bundle of them. Susan began trying each one in the sundial while I flipped through. Photographs, the sorcerers, and their daughter fishing, laughing, traveling. A family once. The keys didn't fit. None of them. I set down the album and looked around the room, at the boxes. The books, the drum, the dancer, and something shifted in my thinking. If you were the sorcerers, where would you hide something you never wanted found? Not in boxes full of easily forgotten keys. Not in books someone might browse. Somewhere deliberate. Somewhere it would never occur to a stranger to look. Susan, She looked up. Stop. She said it before I did. That's how I knew we were right. There are many ways to tell a story, she said slowly, still thinking it through. Books, photos, songs, performances, and, we said it at the same time, dance. The porcelain hula cane dancer. I crossed the room and ran my hands over it, the flowing robes, the raised arms, the serene painted face. Nothing. I pressed along the base, the back, the hollow of the neck. I checked my watch, 10:51 p.m. 9 minutes. Something broke in me then, not courage exactly, but the particular desperation of a person who has run out of careful options. I stepped back and pushed the statue over. It hit the stone floor and shattered. In the ruins of its head, a bronze key. Susan had the key in the sundial before the echo died. A section of wall swung inward. The YY, the valuables. Two objects on a wooden shelf. A macao, a carved fish hook, and a liamano, a traditional club edged with shark's teeth. We grabbed them and ran. We almost made it. Then the lights went out. The hallway lights flickered as we moved. Toward the bedroom, where the sorcerers had died. Once, twice. Then every bulb in the corridor exploded simultaneously. Raining glass. The smell hit us a second later. Iliahi, Hawaiian sandalwood. Thick and sweet and completely wrong, because there was no source for it. We reached the bedroom. I gripped the fish hook and the club and tried to snap them. They held. The door slammed shut behind us. The overhead light died. In the darkness, the drumming began, low and distant. But inside the house, threading through the walls from somewhere we couldn't locate, the sandalwood smell climbed until it was almost suffocating. Susan grabbed my arm. Look up. I will never forget what we saw when we looked at that ceiling. Two figures, glowing white, featureless, arms extended forward. They came through the closed door as though it was open water, slowly, silently, impossibly, gliding toward us with the patient certainty of things that have never been in a hurry. Susan backed us against the wall. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Break them. Break them now. I tried. The objects held. The figures closed the distance. Icy air hit my hands as their arms reached within inches, reaching for the YY. Not for us, I realized. They wanted them back. I thought of Susan finding the diary that morning. I thought of the old woman driving away. I thought of every patient I had ever refused to lose. I snapped both objects at the same moment. For pieces. Two small clouds of smoke rising from the brakes. The figures stopped. They had no faces, but somehow, in that last half second, they conveyed something that looked like outrage. Then they came apart, dissolving into the same sandalwood smoke that had filled the room. And the light came back on. Quiet. Ordinary. A bedroom. Susan and I stood there in the sudden normalcy and just held on to each other. We called the cellar that night. No answer. The next morning, we drove to her friend's address. They met us at the door with the kind of expression people wear when they've been up all night, waiting to deliver news. She had passed away in her sleep, peacefully, just after 11 p.m. Smiling, they said, "We still live in the house. We've repaired the wall panel, replaced the light bulbs, and swept up the porcelain. The secret room is a study now. We kept the memory boxes. We kept the photo albums, the fishing trips, the overseas holidays. The family that once lived here and loved each other fiercely. We didn't keep the broken pieces of the YY. We buried them in the garden, under a plumeria tree, on a warm Honolulu morning. It felt like the right thing to do. Have you ever experienced something in a home that had no rational explanation? Tell us in the comments.